Hi everyone, I'm Ashley McManus, Director of Marketing at Affectiva. Welcome to Affectiva Asks, a human perception AI podcast, where each episode we will interview a thought leader doing cutting-edge work in the AI space. A little bit about us. Affectiva is the pioneer of human perception AI, software that can detect nuanced human emotions, complex cognitive states, behaviors, activities, and interactions. And Affectiva is applying this technology to advance the next generation of multimodal in-cabin sensing. We have a special episode today featuring Karen Osorio, Senior R&D Scientist at Procter and Gamble, and President and co-founder of Bag in the Back, an organization with the mission to increase awareness to parents and caregivers about the dangers about vehicular heat stroke. About one child every 9 days in the U.S. die yearly in hot cars from vehicular heat stroke. 90% of these victims are under 3 years old. While this is clearly a problem, it is one that is surrounded by stigma. Think this could never happen to me mentality. In fact, only 5% of parents receive any information about preventing infant death by vehicular heat stroke compared to 90% of parents receiving information on SIDS from pediatricians. And yet everyone is at risk. During our discussion, Karen explains the psychology behind the prevalence of autopilot moments and false memories. Both are brain processing errors that are common and unpreventable. Karen was kind enough to share her story with me on why she founded this organization and what they are striving to do to drive down these statistics in children's deaths. On the line, I have Karen Osorio, Senior R&D Scientist at Procter and Gamble. Karen, thank you so much for making the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So to start, can you tell us a little bit about your organization, Bag in the Back, and its mission?
So the Back in the Bag is a program that we have established, and it's the primary program for the Sophia Foundation of Children's Safety. And the mission that we're hoping to achieve is to educate the community by creating content of habits that can prevent injuries in children. And the one that we're working towards is the Back in the Bag, which is preventative habits to for children that are left unknowingly in the car. And it's also aiming to prevent heat stroke.
Great. So let's step back for a minute. What has your career path been, and how did you get where you are today?
Yeah, my career path is a little bit different from the foundation, but so basically, I am a molecular biologist and geneticist by training, and my PhD was on skin health, and I ended up in working for P&G, which is a consumer goods company that offers a variety of products. One of them is a line of skincare products, and I do research on skincare.
Great. So this organization obviously is very personal to you. I was wondering if you could please share your story with us.
I had a daughter, and her name was Sophia, and she died to vehicular heat stroke. And in the moment that event happened, there were many questions that I have, and one of them is why I didn't know that I was at risk. And I started looking for a lot of information, and I started looking at some of the baby books to make sure that, maybe I missed it. And my realization was that at that time, there is not so much awareness of vehicular heat stroke. And when you double click on that and start trying to figure out why, it's like a lot of the information that is today available is coming from the media, and on cases of parents that have been charged on the case of a death of vehicular heat stroke. So it is not commonly talked by pediatricians. It is not commonly talked by the caregivers and it is not found on the baby books.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was trying to heal,
Mm-hmm.
which actually is apparently is like a journey. I wanted to do something to create awareness in a non-threatening way to the community on this safety threat.
Right.
And we started by asking people to understand how many parents are actually aware of this infant threat, and we found that there were approximately 50% of the parents that have awareness. We also start asking how many parents are doing something about it, and we also found out that like at least 50% of the parents aren't doing anything to prevent it.
Wow.
And when you compare this with SIDS, which is another infant threat, which is highly talked about by the pediatricians, and it's also in books, and when you start seeing how people are preventing or taking action, you see that there is more activity, like around approximately 90%, 95% of the parents know about SIDS, and more than 70% are taking preventative action.
Wow.
So we wanted to try to do something similar for vehicular heat stroke.
So you shared a couple of stats with us, and we've heard, we've all seen stories on the news. What kind of problem are we dealing with here?
Back in the 90s, there was a change on the law that required putting the children in the back of the car to avoid injuries during a car accident.
Okay.
Because there was a high number of children that were dying in car accidents. So what happened is that they changed the law, and then also the car seat was part of the change in the law. And in addition to that, the children that are under the age of 2, they're required to be looking towards the seat rather to the front.
Right.
And with that change, there was a reduction in the number of children that were dying by car accidents, but there was an increase in the incidence of children that were dying because of vehicular heat stroke. When you start looking at vehicular heat stroke and why it happens, and there have been parents that have left their children intentionally in the car. That has created an opinion. However, the majority of the parents that lose a child due to vehicular heat stroke are not doing it intentionally. Mm-hmm. They have a false memory, or I will call it like a moment of amnesia, where they thought that they did something that actually didn't happen. And it is more common than the reported number of deaths, because many of the children that are left in the car sometimes are found within the 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours. Some of them end up in the hospital. And the vehicular heat stroke is usually, children are more at risk during the summer seasons when the climate is above 70 degrees outside. So basically, it is a huge problem. The statistics are not reflecting actually the number of children that are left unattended in the car. Part of it is that parents are not aware that they are at risk of leaving them. We also run a survey, and we ask parents that have children under the age of 5 to share if they have left their child unknowingly in the car. 1 out of 50 say yes, that they have. And there's 4 million kids that are born each year, and they're under the age of 1. So if you start adding the number is quite high.
Yeah, you mentioned this a little bit, but how often is this happening, and why do you think it's happening?
So if you look at vehicular heat stroke in the summer months, every 3 to 5 days, there's a kid that is dying. So last year there were 50 children that died to vehicular heat stroke.
Wow.
This is not happening during the winter months, yes, but the parents are still leaving the child unknowingly in the car, but it doesn't go reported. To get the true statistics, we need more information, and we don't have it. We can't just infer based on the number of incidence level that we have in the summer months. That is like the challenge that we have right now. But based on what we know so far, and based on like the responses that we have had from parents, it is more common than we anticipated.
So you mentioned some contributing factors like autopilot moments and false memories on your website and in some of your materials. Can you explain more about what those are?
So an autopilot memory, an autopilot moment, when you are in a routine, there is a big group of people that have routines during the morning and they have routines during their days. You just do things automatically. Mm-hmm. So you brush your teeth, you make coffee, you cook breakfast, then you enter the car, and then you go to work. And sometimes when there is a change on your routine, it can affect your autopilot moment. And the person that assumes that did something when it actually did not happen. And autopilot moments can happen when you are in the car, and then you're driving to a place and you miss an exit. And that is also an example, an autopilot moment, or you thought that you sent an email when it never happened, or people thought that they closed the garage door when they did not close the garage. Usually the reminder, like people get reminders that they went through an autopilot moment when they see the garage door open, or when they pass their exit, or when they receive a call from a colleague saying, "Oh, you have not sent the email." But on their own, you don't notice if the autopilot moment has happened unless you have something that is very clear to you that it didn't happen. Usually when in the cases of vehicular heat strokes, some of the parents have reported that there was a change in routine, and the change in routine can be something as simple that the day before the father was the one who took the child to daycare. A change in routine could be that they had a grandma in the house for a couple of months and then the grandma left. A change in routine can be something as exciting as going on vacation, and those events can affect the autopilot moment. Can lead to an autopilot moment.
Interesting. And what about false memories?
So false memory occurs in people that, like, this is how like they visualize stuff. And usually, like, you can have like a checklist of things to do in the day. And you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. People start visualizing something, and sometimes they assume that happened. Mm-hmm. Even it didn't happen, they see it as if it has happened because it happened very vividly on their mind. False memories are actually quite common, because people remember things in a way that it might not reflect the actual reality, but it's something that is very common. And a false memory could be that you saw dropping your child in the daycare, talking to the teacher, when none of those events happen. That is a field that is actually studied in psychology for crime scenes. When we talk to some of the experts, they say that that could be another reason why parents leave children unknowingly in the car.
So, and I'm just curious, I didn't see anything about drowsiness being a cause for this on your site for these kinds of incidents. Is that not typically a cause, especially for new parents who are maybe sleep deprived, or is it kind of woven into a factor of the other causes?
So when we started the back in the back message, we look at what is out there in terms of the data. There is no data saying that lack of sleep increases your false memories or your autopilot moment. So that we don't have that information.
Yeah.
We do know that parents overall are sleep deprived. If that were the case, then you will see more cases of the event. So we didn't have enough data that was pointing us to say with confidence, yeah, lack of sleep, it is a factor that leads to autopilot moments or that leads to false memories.
So let's talk prevention. So tell us a little bit about, the bag in the back method. How does it work and how can caregivers implement it?
Yeah, so the bag in the back message, it consists of putting an item of daily use in the back of the seat that it will force you to go in the car if you enter into an autopilot moment or a false memory. So if a person uses their cell phone every day within 30 minutes of leaving the car, then that should be the item that is on the back seat. What it does is that once you put your personal item in the back, you're gonna be always forced to open the back door and look. Even if even if you have done everything right, sometimes, your memory might fail. That habit might force you to look in the back seat when you're in an autopilot moment or you're having a false memory. So that is basically what is the habit about. We have heard, like as a result of some of this, that we have heard of like parents that they started putting an item of frequent use in the back seat, and they opened the door and they saw their child there. Mm-hmm. So it's as simple as that. It's just like adding another layer of protection to the parent or the caregiver in case that their memory fails them. That's it. Yeah. And when you think about it, there's many habits that parents practice on a daily basis to prevent injury for their children. In the example of seats, is they sleep on their back, alone, and in a crib. When you think about to prevent choking, you squeeze the grapes or you squeeze the food. So it is just a simple habit that just add another layer of safety in your routine as a parent. That's it.
So what challenges is your organization, Bag in the Back, currently facing?
I would say that we have been very blessed to have a community that is supporting us. What I can see that is the challenge of this message is that it comes with a lot of stigma. And there is a reaction that comes from a lot of parents that this could never happen to me. What type of parent leave a child in the car? And that is a reaction because people care for the children and they cannot conceive this happening. We would like to achieve is to have a community that is more receptive to say, well, maybe this could happen to me. Or if they never see that could happen to them, they at least will adopt the habit, just in case,
Right.
But it's a difficult message to communicate.
So at Affectiva, we're working with car OEMs and Tier 1 suppliers on human perception AI, which is about detecting all things human within the car. Today, we're focused on driver monitoring specifically and improving road safety that way through, distraction and drowsiness detection. But we're expanding our AI to things like detecting children left behind. So from where you are sitting and based on your experiences, how might this be most helpful to caregivers? What would a successful implementation of this technology look like to you?
Die through vehicular heatstroke is due to entrapment. Mm-hmm. So they enter the car and then they don't know how to get out. A technology that can detect motion when the car is off and is sending an alert system to the parents and to another caregiver could prevent some of these injuries in a timely manner. I think time is like the key for this event.
So if you could have one takeaway for the audience listening today, many of whom I'm sure have young children in their lives, what would you like to tell them?
I would like to encourage them to read a little bit more about vehicular heatstroke, what they can do to prevent it. Adopting the back in the back habit is I would say, a must for all the parents. There are other things that they can also do in addition to back in the back. Some recommendations of, if a parent is usually in a routine, they talk to their caregivers or to the daycare and they ask them, in the event that I have not shown up with my child, please call me. So there are many layers of protection that a parent can take. Back in the back is one, but that doesn't prevent them to take additional ones.
Do you have any asks of them or how they can help?
Talking about it. I think that like my ask for the community will be talk to your partner, to the grandparents, and to your other children in the house. The vehicular heatstroke, it doesn't it happens to every caregiver. It has happened to the school, it has happened to the babysitter, it has happened to the mom, the dad, the grandpas, it has happened to the sister and brother. So it doesn't discriminate to who is gonna happen. And so having a discussion in the family that this is something that to be aware of is very important. And discussing the habits of prevention, I think, is like imperative in every family to have those discussions.
So this has been super fascinating, difficult topic to discuss, but certainly an important one. For our listeners, can you let us know where they can go to learn more?
So we have like a website right now, and it's www.backinthebag.org. We currently are giving some information on the topic. We have pamphlets, we have flyers. They're currently being used in pediatricians' offices. And in some of the schools, in daycare schools, if you want to have more information, that is a place to go. If you want to receive some information in PDF files to use it in your office or to share with your friends, that's another place that you can go and request the information, and we will send it. I think that's like awareness is the first goal for us.
Well, so this has been great, Karen. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Full disclosure, I am a mother of a 2-year-old daughter, so Karen's mission and personal story really resonated with me. In addition to the work she's doing, I found the research she shared with me truly fascinating. For example, that this became an issue after a law in the 90s required that young children be secured in rear-facing car seats in the back seat made so much sense. One could see how an infant could be forgotten, not only because they're out of sight, out of mind, but because they sleep often. They're not making a lot of noise. Another interesting takeaway for me personally was addressing the stigma head-on. Karen did warn me about backlash, but as she mentioned at the end of our conversation, the best hope that we have to combat these kinds of instances is to create awareness of them by talking about it, as no one is immune. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Remember to subscribe to Affectiva's Human Perception AI podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes. We are also on social media, so please reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Affectiva to share any feedback you have on the show and weigh in on the discussion using hashtag AffectivaPodcast. Until next time, thanks for listening.